All right, everybody, good afternoon, I should say, late afternoon, although it's dark enough, it seems like it's evening. So we'll call the meeting to order, and as usual, we'll start with the secretary's report, which are the minutes of the December 12th meeting. Are there any comments, corrections, etc. about this? I have a couple small things, but I'll first see if anyone else has anything.
I do.
Okay, Peggy?
Under building and technology, just under the committee reports there, I think we should just clarify where it says the work pods do not have an ADA accessible requirement for placement. And I think it's that the grant, from what I remember from last time, the grant doesn't. It's not the work pods requirement.
Right.
The work pods do not have an ADA accessible requirement in the grant.
Is that accurate for those of you who worked on it?
It is accurate.
Okay, so I'm gonna make that change. All right.
I don't even remember where this road is anymore.
Do you want to,
Oh, here, okay, yeah.
or you can, it's sort of, okay. Okay, sorry, I have to get logged on. All right, and I think the other thing is that if you look at the heading for the minutes.
I fixed that.
You did,
Yes.
yeah, it had the wrong date in it,
Yes,
so
and
that's why.
Samantha pointed that out
Yeah.
to me, and on the Google Drive, I've made that correction.
Okay. And
Can I add something?
yes,
I think I got credited with asking a question. I don't remember asking. I think it might have been Eileen, but it was the second last paragraph before new business. So under old businesses, Leah asked whether the loan monies could go into an endowment fund and then pay off the loan over time. I don't remember asking that. So I think that was me. And it was Eileen, so. It's a good thought, so.
That's a great question.
credit where credit is
Good
due.
question. Where's it?
Okay. Mm. I don't know if we want to or not on the board minutes. The information is later in our packet, but in the minutes it talks about the Friends contributing, increasing their contribution by $2,000. I think we could say we might put in the total number, which makes it 17,000, correct? Yeah, I just thought it was a little, sort of begged the question, well, what is the new total? So maybe we can amend it just to add that. Are there any other comments and changes to the minutes from last month? If not, is there a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
I move.
Rick moves, Michael seconds. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, minutes are approved. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Are there items, things to be done? Yes, Peggy.
Is somebody going to address the resignation of Rue?
Yeah, we can mention it.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised by it.
Yeah, I didn't get informed about it either
And
at first.
He was replaced, really. I
Yeah.
mean, you know,
Yes.
he didn't really resign. He was just, they have a seat on the board from city council, and council every year go through and choose committee assignments. Sometimes we may have the same one for
person.
a couple of years, but they don't have to be the same one, and they just, in the way that they do it, decided that it wasn't him anymore, and it was now going to be Terry. So he didn't really resign, he was just,
He was reassigned.
He was
it
reassigned.
doesn't have to be, I mean, he could, that person, according to the bylaws, could be more than
Yeah.
a year. It's not
Right.
a year.
Yeah, but it's not up to us.
But
That's up to the city
Board just
council.
changes.
They
The
just,
city
It's the
council.
in their
City council.
process, they.
It's up to the city council.
they have a bit of a process to do it, and I suppose however they did it.
Start December and finalize it in January.
And so they just
That's too bad.
decided it was Terry this time.
Okay,
And when they notified me, they sent me the list of all the assignments I heard from, the clerk, so it's not, they just send it out to all of the whatever groups, so, I mean, there's like 7 or 8 different assignments
Oh, yeah.
that city
Yeah.
councilors get assigned to,
Right.
so
Yeah, there's
he may
committees,
have had another
boards.
assignment for another board or
Yeah.
another, yeah, so I mean, it's
I
just,
thought it was too bad.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of,
I always dealt with that at Main Street.
Hmm?
I always dealt with that at Main Street. They have 3
Oh.
seats, so
Yeah.
that would happen.
the committee I'm on as well, the
They
community
don't
development
usually
committee, it's the same way.
Until they
Okay.
show up.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay.
I just,
anything else to adjust the agenda? I would say that Leslie has to leave a bit earlier today, around 6 o'clock, so I may move a couple of the agenda items up that she's particularly knowledgeable about, so that we address them before she leaves. And any other adjustments? Okay, my comments are to say, Happy New Year. I hope you weathered the holiday season, the snowstorm on the 18th and the snowstorm last Sunday, and will weather the snowstorm starting tonight very well. We've got a lot of, the momentum continues on some of these major projects. There are a lot of things in train. And so it's far from business as usual for all of us. We'll have a lot of interesting and challenging things to work on, but they'll all work for the benefit of the library. So I don't really, since we've got a full agenda as usual and have some time constraints, I won't say anything more than that. And instead move to librarian's report.
so I've invited Laurel Cox, who's a reference librarian and collection development librarian, to talk about audiobook trends in libraries, especially patent-free library. There's a lot going on, and we talk about it all the time, and there's some really interesting things that I found out from Laurel recently, so I thought it'd be really interesting for her to share sort of what's going on in the audiobook world, and what's going on with our patent-free library patrons. And so I'm gonna ask Laurel to sit in this chair so she can share her screen and talk a little bit about, so one of the things Laurel does selection for adult fiction, but she also does selection for adult, all adult digital materials. So take it away, Laurel. And Laurel's worked at the library, how many years? 13.
Yeah.
So she's well versed in all things PFL, so
And I need to do another different, yeah.
so there you go. So just share that screen.
All right, so, yeah, Leslie asked me to just kind of give the lay of the land right now with audiobooks. Audiobooks have been changing, I feel like, perpetually in their 60-year existence. So this is nothing new, the amount of change that's happening with them. I am curious, before I start, how many of you are audiobook readers? And how many of you read on the cloud library or listen from the cloud library? Oh, interesting. And how many use CDs? Presumably the rest of you use audiobook CDs? Okay, and so presumably the rest of you use Audible or some other subscription service, okay.
or book.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm talking specifically audiobooks. So I'll focus mainly on adults today, adult, YA and juvenile have slightly different trends. I'll talk a little bit about them, but my focus will be mainly on adult audiobooks. But before I start, I do want to clarify the Cloud Library platform. If you are not familiar with it, that is the vendor that we use in Maine. The entire state uses it for ebooks and e-audiobooks. It is a collection that's been in place for quite some time now, 15 years probably, maybe even a little
About
longer.
when I started, I
Yeah.
think was when it was in.
And so the majority of the collection is held by the state, by Maine Infonet. And it's close to 59,000 items, ebooks and e-audiobooks. More ebooks, about 36,000 ebooks and about 20,000 audiobooks. Some of that is held by private collections like Patents. Patents is quite small compared to that number for just under 1,000 items. And I'll explain why that is and how we're trying to grow that collection momentarily. But all right, let's see here. So I want to start with the beautiful chart that Elizabeth made and put in the monthly statistics.
Could move that window out of the way. Is that blocking?
I'm okay with it. Oh,
Yeah.
it's blocking for
Yeah.
everyone.
I'll just scoot it down. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, so this was in the monthly statistics that Elizabeth put together. It's a really nice indication of how digital audiobooks are increasing in circulation. So that green line, you can see how it just keeps inching up over the past 3 years, representing for our digital items compared to ebooks, 15% in 2021 to 34% in 2022, and then 44% in 2023. So it keeps jumping. And I'll show you another.
Okay, I got, I'm Mr. Persnickety here. Just noticed there's a misspelling.
Yeah.
PFL Cloud Library instead of library.
As long as the numbers are right.
That's not spoken like a true librarian. Role models.
This is another way of looking at the same trends. So this is the past calendar year, 2023. This is our collection. And you can see how the audiobooks in light blue are sort of slowly evening out in terms of what is borrowed. The number of items we own is also evening out. So that is not, it's not as much of an indicator as the reds and the oranges are. The red holds, also, as you see, that pinkish color is growing. I don't know if you can see it on that screen actually as well, but
Yeah.
the pinkish part, which is the holds on audiobooks, has eclipsed the holds on ebooks, and the suggestions, which is patrons asking for items to be purchased. We're getting a lot more of those audiobook suggestions than ebooks at this time. This sort of holds true across the nation. We're certainly in step with everyone else. I thought it was interesting this the Audio Publishers Association has seen double-digit growth for 11 years. So it's definitely a market that just keeps growing, and it's certainly true among other libraries as well. You can see the green bar there. Most libraries are reporting that they've either seen a significant increase or even moderate increase in their use of digital audiobooks. And this is from a report that was just released a survey that was released last month from Library Journal. So why are we seeing this? Some of you who are audiobook fans probably know the answer to this. Certainly that double-digit rise over the past 11 years coincides with smartphone penetration. Smartphones are pretty incredible mechanisms for delivering audiobooks, and it allows people to do it while they're cleaning and cooking and exercising and traveling and some of the old ways, but also new ways. And because it's so much more easy to download, we're also seeing it for in uses like reluctant readers. Mary was saying in the children's room, she has some parents that come in, and check regularly for both audiobook CDs and digital. But the rise is also from the distribution advancements that have happened because you can now do not only Audible but iTunes and Spotify just got in the game 2 months ago, and it's literally everywhere. It also coincides with this rise in podcasts and just original audio content in general. People listen a lot more than they did even 15 years ago. But I think personally, the most interesting part of it is the technological advancements that have happened that have made the production value a lot stronger. So you can do things like putting bonus content on with interviews with the authors. You can do audiobook only releases. There was a Steve Martin release this summer, which was him in conversation with Adam Gopnik. That was only released as an audio. That was the only way to read it. You are seeing a lot more sound effects, original music, celebrity narrators. There's some pretty incredible actors that it's just fascinating to listen to their voices. There was the first time I heard a narrator switch between a French accent and a Scottish accent and a British accent, in the space of minutes. It's fun to listen to. And then author narrators are also, so you're hearing Dolly Parton reading her own, and even lesser known authors. I listened to a book last month by Luma Mufta. She's the one, I don't know that you would know her. She's not a celebrity, but she read her own book. It's about her refugee story leaving Jordan. And she kind of sounds like she's going to cry the entire audiobook. And she probably was, because her story is incredibly difficult. And it's really moving to listen to. There's also these large ensemble casts. This one, I don't know if you can see it. This is the Lincoln in the Bardo. It made a big splash a couple of years ago. Did you listen to this one?
I never listened to it, I read the book.
166 person
But now I
cast.
need to.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the names on this cast are incredible. It's like everyone in
George,
comedy, in the comedy world. basically.
George Saunders was the
Yeah.
author, wasn't he?
Yeah.
George
Yeah.
Ross.
Of the
Yeah.
book, yeah.
So they're just fun. And I honestly think that is driving a lot of it. It's not the old abridged monotone narrator of, even 20 years ago. That being said, audiobooks on CD are not dead yet. I'm sure that time is probably coming. But certainly our patrons, we're still seeing regular use of audiobooks among patrons who are not comfortable in the digital world, or people who just love audiobooks now and are willing to take whatever format they can. They'll do audiobooks or digital. And I also, because of what I was just saying about the production enhancements, I think it's just driving interest in audiobooks in general. So there's that piece. Our new audiobook CDs are basically in constant rotation and being checked out. And there's people who, they want Paul Doran and they don't really care how they get him. So, our Paul Doran circulated 15 times in 12 months, which for an audiobook is, that's pretty good. And yeah, so there's those bestsellers are still, people want them regardless. Are we? So, whoops, I think I just have to, okay. So the question then is, how do we meet this demand? And this is where things get tricky. These formats are very expensive, especially for a library of our size. For digital audiobooks, the prices for one audiobook range between $47 and $109. And that, I would say the most common price point is $60. These are for adults. Children's and YA is actually pretty significant difference in pricing. $60 for 2 years license. So when you compare that to $15 for a hardcover book, it's a big difference. And especially when you don't own it, which personally, is very difficult for me to stomach, that you're getting licensed access, you don't own the item in the end. There are some perpetual, items where you can purchase them for perpetual, and I personally try and favor those. But it's tricky because those are rarely the ones that are, the latest bestseller.
So it's only the CDs that you buy, the audio CDs?
So we're buying both right now. So we're also
And the ones
buying,
that you would own.
yes, they're the
Yes.
only ones, unless we get one of these perpetuals, which is probably about a third of what we buy is perpetual, but that also comes with hunting and pecking. So the bestsellers are usually a licensed agreement. Audiobooks on CD are much more predictable. They're usually in the $30 range, but they can also be up to $100. For some reason, some of the vendors' recorded books is notoriously expensive.
What's the lifespan on this?
On the audiobook CDs, it really varies. The vendor that we have right now is really great about providing replacement CDs. And even if it's past a certain point, we can purchase a replacement CD. That wasn't always the case. We had a different vendor a couple of years ago. But still, some of those CDs are 15 years old. They can last quite a long time.
Are there any vendors out there that are looking forward and saying, we'll convert these CDs to, a file and we'll be able to download it?
They're saying we'll sell you the
Yes.
digital, but yes, there's a lot of people in the digital download market.
It would seem that's the direction you should.
Yes, so it's on the horizon, it's inevitable. But in the meantime, we have people who still are seeking the physical format as well. So we're straddling both right now, which is tricky. And I think we're probably in good company around the state in that regard as well, where it's just like the streaming services with films. You have people that are in both camps, and we're at this point in history where how do you divide your resources? So yeah, licensing is a problem, and I'm guessing I speak for all librarians that it's not ideal. It's a really hard way to make fiscal decisions when you're making based just on this temporary access. I think most of us would either like across the board a flat fee to X amount of content, or to be able to purchase something and then own it and be able to make those choices how we see fit. So selection considerations that come up in this when you're trying to purchase in both formats is the availability in each format. So it can get a little tricky because some audiobooks are only available digitally. Some audiobooks are only available physically. There's some vendors that have licensing rights to print CDs, and other vendors don't. That Paul Doran one that I mentioned was only available from not our usual vendor. So it gets really tricky trying to balance the availability and what we can get. And weird things happen, like lessons in chemistry, which I'm sure you've all heard of at this point. They eventually printed an audiobook on CD 18 months after the book was released. So it's just a really fluid environment. The fiscal responsibility that I mentioned is big when you're purchasing something for $109, you want to make sure that it's something that your patrons are actually going to use and want down the line. Of course, it's the usual balance of fiction versus nonfiction genres, authors. We're only buying about, 6 in each format a month. And I'm always saying to Leslie that I think the smaller the collection, the trickier the decisions are, because you really have to find those things you know people are going to use. So it gets a little backward in terms of the amount of time you're thinking about each. So this is just another example of we're not alone in this regard either. You can see from that same library journal survey from last month that it's pretty common that the circulation is not gone yet, but it's certainly stepping that way. And then again, when you look at children's and YA on the right, you can see that the adoption is a little bit slower there. Physical formats are still preferred for a lot of parents, depending on the setting. It's tricky, but so yeah, I don't think these tricky decisions are going away. It's just an evolving landscape, but fewer and fewer cars have CD players. Fewer and fewer patrons own a CD player, even in their home. We actually added one to our unusual items collection this fall because sometimes people want the audiobook but don't have the actual player. So yeah, I think it's all of these digital offerings are tricky, and they keep changing the game, particularly with the streaming movies and the digital ebooks and audiobooks. So, but I think it's really encouraging that people have found Cloud Library and they do love it. I looked today and there's like 11,000 holds in Cloud Library right now across the state. And it can lead to tough waiting times, hold times. And I always tell people when they come up to the reference desk and they're at the Cloud Library, I said, it's a browsing collection. You have to just kind of see what's available. Like if you're hoping for one specific thing, your chances of getting that are small, but it's a great service. That being said.
So do you try to coordinate with other libraries, like you'll buy these 6 and Gardner Library will buy these 6, or?
So that is a whole.
Sorry.
I wish that was the case.
Yeah.
To be honest, I wish that we all had more communication with the state.
Right.
For those of you who use Cloud Library, you probably know this, but the items that the state owns are visible at all times to everybody. The items that are owned by Scarborough that are in use right now go invisible. And so, for instance,
To everyone but
Scarborough patrons, thank you. So what happens is if the state doesn't own it, it looks like there are no copies there, even though maybe there's 15 copies owned by us and, but so if we don't own it, it becomes very tricky. Like, for instance, the latest Ann Patchett, for some reason, is not owned by the state. So if we want our patrons to see it, we have to own a copy of it, or they can't put themselves on a hold list. So you bring up a really good point, which is if we could pool our resources better, we could do a lot more because it's so costly. And so we've had a number of discussions. Yeah.
We actually have tried that. We've reached out, we've met with, the head of InfoNet and tried to have these.
The way that the state can help with that.
Yeah. It would be really great because I think we could improve access for everyone in the state if there was a more concerted effort.
Why do you think those items become invisible? Because books don't become invisible, like if you're looking for.
Right, like in Minerva.
Yeah,
Minerva.
exactly.
So if it could work like Minerva, that would be great.
Yeah, Minerva, don't know if another library, somebody else, if it's out or whatever, so what's the point of having it be invisible?
Because you don't own the content, you have access.
Another library owns it, it's different.
And you probably wanted to aim, if you're buying it, you would want to privilege your patrons, right?
Right.
Yeah,
But I think what it masks is even more demand,
Right.
because if
Mhm.
people could see all of the books that are owned by everyone, I think you'd see hold lists even triple what we see now.
Vicky's point's good. In Minerva, every library owns the books it has there, and there could be multiple copies in each library, and
Yeah.
all you're doing is changing the name from book to Audible. And so it's the same process, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, it has to
Allison,
do with how,
Maybe you get the legislator and introduce legislation to correct it.
it has to do with main internet, but also with Cloud Library itself and how they function.
I think the vendors
Yeah.
You also
make
can't
that
renew a book
determination.
Yeah.
that you have out, that's another hitch in it, like, if I have a book out from here, I can go into Sierra and go renew my book, but if you're reading a book on Cloud Library and you're not done and your time's up, it goes back and it goes away, and you can't find it immediately.
Right.
And you, if somebody's on hold for it, it's
It
gone.
disappears, yeah.
And you have to wait till it comes available and read that last book.
Yeah, so things come and go, it's very confusing, yeah. To have things, you would never see that in Minerva, right? Things just
Right.
evaporate,
Right.
oh, they're back. So unless patrons know that little tidbit, it can be very confusing.
It was very sad.
So it's definitely, the platform itself, I think, is still in its infancy. There's so many improvements that could be made. And then I think that's true of the state and how we work together as well, so.
What's the breakdown in our acquisition budget? This is hardcovers and Audible.
So audiobooks in the physical format are in CD are about 7%. And then the ebooks are similar. It's 12% for both ebooks and e-audiobooks rather, so.
Yeah. I mean, we can't, our budget for materials has not kept up with the demand.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And that's a good illustration of Minerva is a library universe created and designed by librarians, but in the outside world, vendors say, they're not in the business of sharing or giving away books. That's our business, not theirs. Theirs isn't selling. So that's why it's a good illustration of
Yeah.
both camps.
And even the publishers, they're not in the library.
Oh,
business
they are
either,
not
you
in
know,
the
so
library
when they're
business.
negotiating
No.
these deals with
Right.
vendors, they,
Yeah.
they
Not
don't,
looking out
they
for
don't
you.
care,
Mhm.
no.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes there'll be whole authors you don't see represented because of how the publishers
Mhm.
have negotiated or not
Right.
negotiated
Mm.
something.
Yeah.
Something beautiful about print.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laurel.
All that is very interesting,
Yeah.
an eye opener.
So just stop sharing. Yeah.
That's just so weird, somebody goes
Yeah.
invisible.
Yeah, it was astonishing the first time. I was like,
Hey.
There you go.
Yeah, and audio, yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Again, in the interest of getting through certain things while Leslie's available, let's move to the budget. Move that around and talk about the 24-25 budget. It was in the,
I'm looking in the Google.
well, it was in the, the link was in the packet.
Yeah.
So the
It's in the
packet from
packet.
before.
Got it.
So we had an introduction and description of the budget, last meeting. And chance to look at it.
Would Tommy make a motion first to
What?
To approve it.
accept, approve it and then
Well, I thought I was
discussion?
gonna have to. No, I thought we discussed it before we decide whether to approve it or not. didn't we? We had a presentation on it last time. The goal today is to approve or reject it, I guess.
Right.
Like, first of all, the question, it's been a month, some people have seen it, if there were any more questions or discussions about the items. And then we would we would decide whether to accept that or not, and why.
Say one thing, Robert's rules would say that we would have a motion.
Motion and then
approve, Then
discussion.
discussion, and then the vote. But in order to
To
discuss.
approve discussion?
No, to approve it.
Oh.
You have a motion and then you have the discussion.
Okay.
Then you vote.
Right.
But that's just Robert's rule, I mean, we.
All right,
whatever we
that's
want.
fine, let's do it for that,
I
okay.
don't care.
Motion,
I'll move it to.
okay, one second,
So the,
okay, all in favor?
We'll
No,
discussion.
then
Now
discussion.
discussion. No, we'll discuss. Before you call the motion, you have discussion.
Oh, I see, okay, I was taking a different, okay, taking to a discussion first before you consider whether approval or not,
we
but
do
okay,
that all the time.
okay,
The idea is that unless there's something that's moved, you have nothing to discuss.
Huh.
That's why that's
Right.
the rule exists. Unless there's a motion before.
it's
us.
not
So there's a-
logical to me, but anyway.
Makes sense to me.
This is proper.
Okay, all right, okay, so, okay, discussion.
One of the things we talked about last month was sort of the language around all of this, because when we talked about surplus, and like maybe we should use that word surplus, we also talked about sort of pointing out that, and I can't remember, there was something about, the cost of having your own town library, and maybe that's not part of the specific budget discussion, but I think it is something to consider as we talk about it. I think also the 5% increase where the CPI is only, what,
2.7.
Yeah, that's something I think we should be prepared to, put that, right?
I think there's consensus last, Allison, that we have to build our case or our talking points about how to present the budget. And so they aren't looking just at inflation versus increasing the budget, as you say, but the larger picture, financial picture of the library. I think Leslie's got, has a very good handle on and can explain. And I think we heard it, even today in Laurel's presentation of way the material, and she said about the materials, how constrained we are and what we can buy. And I think the number from the funding amount for materials hasn't gone up in recent years, or it's
Gone
gone
up a
a
little
little bit, but considering the demand, could easily do much more if the resources were available. Okay, so,
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that we need to really think about and spend time and have it reported to the board, how that piece is crafted to the towns. And it may have to be vary with the different towns somewhat, perhaps, or whatever, but I do think it's important. And we talked about, I think it was raised in the last discussion, someone raised about more narrative and really, carefully crafted.
Mhm.
Because I think there might be, within the towns, another 5% increase. It could be
Mhm.
an issue.
Can I ask Tommy and Allison if you have any thoughts on what the towns are now looking at in terms of their town budgets? What their, has that started?
Woolwich is just starting. I was just in a couple of conversations, and I'm looking at the West Bath folks over there.
Hello.
Is, I know West Bath just had a revow, and there's a lot of.
What? I'm sorry. Revaluation.
Which is, at least the couple of people that I've talked to has been causing some distress. We're a couple of years away from that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we're having our first budget meeting next week after.
But do you have any expectation of whether there'll be an increase in your budget from previous years? And if so, how much, or a decrease? Do you have any of the indications there yet?
Well, I fully expect the human resources
Right.
will be up 3% or whatever, 2.5%.
I think fire might also be up because it's just the numbers that we've been given. We haven't,
You have no idea what the total, right now, you have no sense of what the total will be.
no, but human resources for sure,
I assume West Bath isn't.
so.
And I think in the case of Woolwich, so there are some expenses that are falling away that we won't have this year, I believe.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, paying for a reval.
paying for the rebound is, we're not doing anymore now. So we save $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year on that.
But anyway, I mean, it's always gonna be an issue, a discussion, right?
Isn't it, I mean, just looking at it very simplistically, almost all of it's related to wages and benefits. And
I mean, with the library budget,
Yeah.
yeah.
so
The argument would be,
you gotta keep.
we're
good
giving
employees.
a CPI increase, and then we're increasing the basic hourly wages for a certain number of staff members.
Like every other business these days.
So
Okay.
so the salary increase is just CPI, but what?
Well, it's not just the CPI, because we're also increasing the hourly
Or
payroll,
payroll,
the
Right.
payroll for the, which staff is it, the part-time staff?
Part-time staff.
Right,
Part-time
right,
staff.
right, right.
But
For
also,
the, to be consistent with our philosophy that we reach at the midpoint. And they were, the latest salary survey showed they were below the midpoint.
so the personnel costs are up 7% or so, I think, compared to last year.
but health insurance, I mean, we're part of the health trust, and so are
I'm not
municipalities.
disagreeing, I'm
Yeah.
just,
But I mean,
No,
we
I'm
have a
but I think
story, we have a
yeah,
case, I
that's a
mean,
good
it isn't
point.
just.
I'm trying to talk through
Yeah.
the argument.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
The other
I
part
think
of
that's
this,
really
the
important.
other part of the story is the impact of the
The
endowment.
endowment.
Right,
That's a big, there's a huge revenue shortfall
right,
comparatively, so.
right. Those were all
That's part of the story too.
very valid
Yeah.
points. I think it's good to have a discussion when we have one more time, maybe when there's a proposed, case document done, that we have what, at least in the government, you would call a murder board. And
What word?
you put the person on the spot and you pepper them with questions, anticipating negative
Oh.
questions that will come
oh.
from the audience farther out. And
Uh-huh.
so, and then you work together to come up with the answers. I mean, it's done particularly for people who are nominees to positions, because they're gonna get grilled by
Ah.
often governors.
What is it called?
We called it a murder board. A little, you're overly dramatic, but yeah. But anyway, but have a
Yeah.
discussion, anticipate the
Yes.
negative questions or the criticism or the challenges that will come to it, and then be prepared for that.
I think
Yeah.
another
That's right.
important thing to keep in mind is that last year's budget was not as big of an increase as one might have thought, given inflation and other
Right.
things. So,
Mhm.
so we're kind of like, maybe we're making up for what we should have done last year or could have done last year. I don't know.
Can't predict.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think what people will see in Woolwich is there's 5% increase in CPI increases this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what,
Yes.
how do you account for it? I mean,
Yeah.
I think we'll have that.
Yeah.
It's down to 5% again, and then it's not.
Sure,
So
and that's why we have to formulate a plan among ourselves here. Think to do that. Okay, is there any more discussion about the budget?
I guess the other point to be made is that the increases in salary are going to the staff that live in the areas that served by the library. So it's going back, it's going to your neighborhood.
See, Rick's very good at this kind of stuff. He did it for Capitol Hill.
yeah.
He had to sell all sorts of stuff.
It's too bad you don't live in Woolwich.
Maybe you need a summer home?
You.
I have one.
Well, that's
An unorganized township.
There you go.
There's no library.
I pay my taxes.
That's the way to do it.
Okay,
No library at all.
okay. All right.
It does its person.
There's no, is there any more discussion? If not, we can vote. We can try to approve the budget or reject it, should the case be. But it seems I don't hear any opposition to it. Okay. All right, all in favor of the proposed 24-25 budget, raise your hand, say aye, or both. Okay, okay. Let's go back to the order, normal order, present that to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
We're moving.
Seconded, okay. It's on. First of all, the monthly staff report. Are there discussions?
I had a question for Elizabeth. Are we going to apply for that main connectivity?
Yeah, that was my question too.
I don't know, that's a discussion that we have to have. I think we should.
I think so too.
Mhm. But there are a lot of, because it's federal money, it's gonna be a much bigger grant. It's gonna take more of our resources to do it, our resources. So I would love to have a discussion probably with the finance committee, I would think.
And the town of Woolwich did an NCA grant. Two, not just one.
Mhm.
So if you need
Okay.
any insider tips.
But the initial isn't, and then you have to be invited. I don't know if it was the
Yeah,
same process, so I think we should at the very least do the initial letter of interest.
Yeah,
And then, if we get accepted, then it would be the application process.
is there even in a theoretical sense or a very general sense of what you would focus on and use the grant for? Or are there restrictions, or is it entirely up to the library to come up? If you know that, maybe that's getting ahead of things, but.
Right there, so the overarching goal are to create these hubs,
Mhm.
and they're looking at libraries and schools.
Right.
And also, the meeting that I attended, there were several representatives from different tribes. So I do think it's gonna be very competitive. And they're looking to spread it out across Maine. I didn't. Geographically, right, across Maine. So there were a couple of librarians, not as big a library presence as I anticipated. And I think our location is good in Midcoast. So I think that bodes well for us. So those are my initial thoughts, that we should at least put in the letter of intent, but knowing that if we do get the invitation, it is going to require a lot of work. The application.
One other question, in Mary Randall's section, you talked about new iPads for the children's department, or is that for the library in general?
For the children's department, that's something she would like, yes.
Mhm. And is the need there greater than for the general patrons pool?
She has well, yes, because there are a couple things one program that's already going on, which is the Minecraft Mondays.
Mhm.
So there are some kids that don't bring their own devices for Minecraft, and they can use iPads. So right now she's limping along with like 4 old iPads that we have. So she would like new iPads for the kids that don't bring their own devices. And then she would like some iPads for, she wants to bring back some robotics type of things with like our dashes and dots and different, some simple robotics things we have to be able to offer programming around that. So we were just talking, because I meet with my direct reports regularly. We were talking about the need for, she'd like about 10 iPads. So that's something, we'll be sort of looking into whether that's, in a
Can
grant.
people donate old iPads? There's no reason why you couldn't old Minecraft.
Old, yeah, but they don't, we have old iPads. We really need new is the problem, yeah, because that's what we're limping along with, is our older iPads, so we don't
To play
really want
Minecraft.
people's old
It takes
iPads.
newer.
Huh?
It takes newer.
We
to
don't
play
want
Minecraft.
people's old
Yeah,
iPads.
it just-
Play it, so I
Yeah, we need to
Come
know.
on, my craft Mondays.
It'd be over my head, I'm sure.
Yeah, we really want to know.
Okay. So, if you're talking about 10, I don't know, how much does one?
So,
cost?
a new iPad is about $400, so it's about $4,000. We would take whatever we could get, four would be great, but
Yeah.
to start, but yeah, we're limping along with 4 old ones that we got for a grant.
Okay. Well, I had a related question, actually, was reference made in the board minutes, let's see if I ask you to, I think, have we gotten a definitive answer about on line 8 of the Form 990 about grants? And the things, the question was, the numbers went down 23-24 compared to 22-23. And our guess was that it was because
So
the PPP
I thought
forgiveness.
we had,
I don't know if we reported to the board, though. I know in the
That it
finance
was the
committee, we talked.
yeah, I thought we had just decided it was the PPP, but I don't,
I know that was my deduction. I don't know if we can.
I don't know if we.
Yeah,
I don't know if I assumed it was resolved, but maybe it wasn't actually.
Because in the minutes for last month, it says that you were
Okay.
gonna look into
All
that.
right, and this was tell me the line.
It was
8.
about line 8 for Form 990.
Okay, I will resolve that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pending now for several
Yeah,
months,
I'll
so
just send an email out. I think
I think we were making educated guesses and
Yeah.
surmises, but let's,
And this is
I mean, I'm like
between,
90% sure, but it'd be good to know.
yeah, if there's
okay, this is between the 21 and the 22, okay.
compared
Alright.
22-23 compared to 23-24.
Yep,
Yeah,
between the last 2 completed fiscal years, okay. I will send out an email, I'll see what the difference is.
okay. All right. Anything else? Peggy?
I had a question for Elizabeth. Can we, resume job shadowing?
Oh, sure.
So, I guess I still have you sent an email, I guess, the form.
Yep, I'll send another one.
Okay.
I'll
There's
I'll
still a
reignite that
few-
form or
okay.
whatever.
And the
reactivate.
holidays and everything came in,
Okay.
but yeah, there's still a few
Okay.
departments I'd like to
Sure,
check out.
all right.
Yeah, I did one too as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Oh, also, I just wanted to acknowledge, I think it was in Hannah's report, when she talked about the night at the patent.
Oh, yeah.
And that having something indoors along with Starry Night made it worthwhile for special, I think she even said people who don't live in Bath to come. And I just wanted to confirm that. I had never come to Starry Night before, just to, walk in Bath and at night and whatever. But this time, Mark and I came, because we came to the event as well, and the pairing, and we really enjoyed Starry Night. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
All that work, I want to thank people. It was magnificent. I had never seen it. And so I think having those 2 events, just speaking for myself and Mark, my husband, it was worthwhile, putting those 2 events together. So thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
I do think though, Leslie, we discussed this that night, I believe that more could be done in terms of growing that event with the community. Because at least on this location, because the turnout really wasn't as large as you would expect. There was 200 luminaries out there or something.
I don't know if she has any way of counting how many people,
Yeah,
attend the Starry Night piece.
Oh,
I know like
outside
about 130 came to inside,
Okay.
but I don't know, I would assume 130 then went outside,
Yeah.
and others, but yeah.
I noticed cars driving by when we were walking.
And the
So
trolley
some
was out
people-
with people
Oh.
singing and they were driving by as
Uh,
well.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah, it was- Oh, right. So now remember.
Yes. They are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was-
I mean, I swore I'd never do it again, but from the sounds of it, I'm doing it again.
I will
You
say you
said
said
that
that
about
about the.
I know,
spelling
spelling bee.
Like 3 times, actually.
More than that, I'm sure.
She's like, put her fist down. I'm like, well,
Well, here we are.
Yeah. Oh, no, I think.
I guess stop being so successful with
I
these
think
things.
All right.
the annual.
Well, we don't have, there's, building and technology did not meet, nor did Friends, so unless there are issues to, I would say if there are questions about those, you should probably, unless want to relate here, otherwise talk to the committee, to the groups themselves, unless there are anybody else. Finance. Anything, questions about the finance committee's report? Want to say anything more, Tony?
No, I mean, other than, I guess one thing that has come up at least twice today already is the effort to reassess the municipal funding model, and we pledged in the last meeting to kick that committee in the pants and get going, at least have another meeting this month. And keep that conversation going. Apart from that, it's all been just about the EMC project. There's a lot of questions remaining that somebody else is gonna have to answer before we can really put a line on that yet.
Governance, Steve.
Did the report, is the report distributed?
Yes, it was.
So governance did meet again, and you do have a report. We're actually very, very ambitious. Let's hope we bring some things to closure. We did the survey. We got results back from the survey of corporators, and we had 30 responses, which you know, for a targeted group like that, it's probably not great. 30 generally isn't bad for a survey though of this kind. We decided to extend it for 2 more weeks, given the holidays. So the next date of closure is the end of next week, I think, the 19th, I think it is. And we'll report to the board at the next meeting on the results of that survey. We kind of segued then to board self-evaluation, which the committee is recommending.
Where are we, well, that's under new business,
Oh, okay.
so why don't we?
Okay. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So we talked about board self-evaluation, and we talked about the schedule for the director's evaluation, which will now, the oversight of that, I guess, would be the governance committee. And we will report on that at a later point. Lee and I have got we have some conversation to have on the current protocols and associated with the director's evaluation, and we'll report back to that. We'll report back to the board probably at the next meeting on that as well.
Yeah, Leslie and I had spoken on Friday, and so I just sent around a draft, some of the dates and some of the details of the procedure, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Related to governance, I don't know if it's appropriate, but Terry Nordenson, since he's replacing
Oh,
Lou
yeah.
Gunn, he was notified about the meeting tonight, right?
Oh, yeah, I added him, he's out of town.
Okay, because we should keep a record in the minutes of people that are absent from the meeting in case there's ever any
Right.
issue of something being discussed and not being there or being there.
We do that. Yeah.
He does, that's why,
There was some,
Jack knows that I mentioned to Jack that he's new on that.
I know some board members or trustees sent a few emails on that. I mean, you know, we did, in governance, we did talk about board issues related to board membership generally. So not only to you know, why Bath, why not other towns kind of discussion, and also the timing of the town representative, the other town representative, and when they're able to take their seat on the board, given, given that that appointment generally comes late in the year. And we've also discussed the RSU one, rep. Noting that there are two other school districts in our service area, Georgetown and West Bath. So we'll, I hope as a category of discussion, I hope the governance committee will get to that. Maybe not a short order, but we'll get to that, bring some thoughts back to the full board of trustees on these other appointed positions. And also the question, I guess, of voting membership for the treasurer.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
some internal management things
Yeah,
that
that's
the
good.
trustees really need to be attentive to. And
Yeah.
we'll get all those on the table.
Related to that, Leslie had asked me to get in touch with the Georgetown Select Board because apparently Georgetown is the next town. And I thought we were going to discuss that, so I didn't know whether to go forward on that, whether to put up, whether to hold. I had emailed.
Yeah, it is what it is now, so
Right.
I would go forward with it personally. I mean, we've, any change would have to be a bylaw, would have to be a change of bylaws. So we're really looking at a board discussion sometime between now and October. And then any bylaw changes have to go to the full membership. So that would likely be in October. So
It's
I would
also
assume.
Georgetown's opportunity to have representation, as we go forward on these budget issues, so it's a good thing to take advantage of, I think, for each municipality.
And, for them, it's an issue of timing, because you're not organized. Generally, the town boards aren't organized until January, and then you get an appointment, and then, we're already 2 or 3 months into our year.
Right.
Before,
Especially in the budget. would be good too.
before we get that town representative appointed.
Does the select board in that town have to appoint the person, or can it be a more informal process, like?
It says select.
It has to be, yeah.
According to the bylaws, yeah.
It's funny how the bylaws are worded. It says something about may serve. So I wondered, what that meant? Did it mean that it wasn't mandatory that we do that, or it was funny somewhere in the.
It might be that it's not, we have no.
Doesn't have to
if
be a select
Georgetown-
board member.
No,
Or is that
they just have to appoint, I think
Right,
they
It's just
appoint.
appointed,
Yeah, like
we appointed, said,
Tommy, I think?
Right, I don't think it has to be, doesn't have to
It
be.
doesn't have to be a
select
select board member. It can be another member from the community, but the appointment has to come from the select.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess they can decide whether they want to. But that may.
All right. The treasurer's report. Was there anything?
Well, I don't have anything nominal to mention. Does anybody have any questions on the P&L? We have November's P&L here.
I have one question, it's just informational. When does the Bath Historical Society normally make its payment?
I think they did,
Okay, didn't see it on, maybe it's.
because we're 2 months behind.
That was my, okay,
Yeah,
We're checking to see when it was made, but we're pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure they made it,
okay,
yeah.
great,
Okay.
great.
Well, we fetched that answer. Any other questions?
Do this on my phone.
That's good, that's good, I just wondered because it's been pending for a while, so. almost.
They last gave on the 12th of December, so they
Oh,
just made
Right
their
at the end of the
gift.
year.
okay,
So we'll see that in the P&L next month,
Mhm.
because this is as of November. And then looking at the report that we call cash report, that's as of the end of December. Going down to the endowment, I do not have a total as of today, but as of the end of December, we were at 8.2. And I think it's probably still right around there. The market had a little bit of a dip in the beginning of the year, but it's holding right around where we are. So that's good news. We haven't drawn on it in a while. Last draw was in September. which is on target for what we usually do. We usually draw right around in the beginning of the fiscal year and at the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
So that's where we are. Any questions on any of that? And all the cash accounts are looking as they should.
Okay. Let's go on to development then, and I'll just add, although unfortunately I wasn't able to attend the event December, it got rave reviews from people I talked to, and I appreciate the work that, and I should add something I wanted to mention earlier, the quick response with library staff when the power outage ended, and you were opened up by 1 o'clock. And that was a fast turnaround considering when nobody knew when it was going to come on. And according to at least our contact, received the CMP email, it wasn't supposed to come on until 11 at night, and instead it was on at 11 in the morning. So it's a little hard,
They were so off.
planning. I mean, it was worked in everyone's favor, but still, but really, that everything was primed and ready to go was great. That was great to get up. So anyway, I interrupted. Development report.
Okay, so I have my handy little cheat sheet from Samantha.
I have an update on the total.
Ooh, okay. So
You want me to,
yeah, go for it.
Start with that.
we'll start with, I don't have the pledges, but I don't have that written, but the total cash in hand as of right now is 97,681. So we're getting, we're over 100,000 with pledges.
Okay.
Yeah, before that update, what you had sent me earlier, which is a lower number, indicated that we're still about 32,000 from our goal, which is manageable, but that's
At least on
Ramp up
a
work.
month, if you do it pro rata over the year, we're ahead, we're over 70, well,
Yeah,
figure that was
about
reported was
70%.
72%.
Yeah.
And we still have a number of months left in
And
the
that
fiscal
is
year. So
How
that's
it
good.
goes with fundraising, you know,
Yeah.
70% of your fundraising comes in the fall, year end,
Okay.
you know, and then because we're on a fiscal year, we get to nudge that for a little longer.
Yeah,
But keep in mind, we've raised the fundraising goal from 135 this fiscal year to 150
15 minutes.
next year.
Yeah,
So we're gonna have to take everything we're doing now and go on steroids next year. So everybody keep that in mind as they're planning their year next year. The Tiny Art Show closed at the end of the year, raised $1,014, which is double what was last year. So that seems like it's a program that's gonna pick up some steam again next year, hopefully.
Side note, we might make some more money off of that. Today, Hannah and I decided that we will sell the remaining pieces that we have for $20 because people have been asking if they can just buy some. So we'll be making some more money out of that.
And then we were gonna have a discussion about business stewardship. It's been going around a little bit through email. I know Samantha had emailed all the trustees, the current business sponsors, current sponsors, and also businesses that have fallen off, either they were gave last year and didn't this year, or even further than that, haven't given for a few years. So there is a list. Some people are stewarding businesses, some aren't. And we had at one point talked about assigning people to be stewards for certain businesses unless this discussion points otherwise, but that was kind of the current thinking. It's an important revenue stream for us. And overall, the program is not doing as well as it has in years
Since
past.
COVID, it is, and I mean, it's coming back up, but COVID was really hard on all businesses, so all business giving, but globally actually went down during COVID. But as you said, next year we have a $15,000 increase in our annual fund goal, and I'm really hoping that some of that's gonna come, or majority of that is gonna come from businesses. So.
I thought that because the decision was made for Samantha to assign people to businesses if there was there were no takers, that we could at least briefly mention that again, that this was going to happen in case anybody wanted to change something or, so I think before
We're at that list and said,
lower
I
the
know the
boom.
people that own that business, I should do
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, because I looked at the list again, and there were people on there that, you know, businesses, I'd rather choose my own.
Yeah, and I think you
I
signed up
have
for
a
a
few,
couple.
yeah, but I saw a few more, and I'm willing to do that. One question for the lapsed donors, are you going to get in touch with them? or
I
does the
already have.
Okay, so the steward.
So what I'm asking on that end, actually, and like Anthony can kind of speak on that, and I think Carl helped a little. So I've sent, like with Best Savings, I sent them their appeal, they never responded, and I think Carl followed up with somebody else as well, never responded. I gave them the materials that I have sent, and then they just shared them. I don't know how you did it through email or whatever, and those gifts came in almost
Oh,
immediately.
okay.
So sometimes I think, you know,
Just a little nudge.
yeah, and it gets lost in their email or it gets
Yeah.
lost in the mail
Mhm.
because they see me. I'm the,
Mhm.
you know, I'm the development director. They can say no to me. It's harder to say no to board members because you're coming from, you're not getting paid, right?
Right, right,
You're
yeah,
coming from
yeah.
passion for the library. So I think that little bit of nudge from somebody else is helpful. So yeah, so if there's anybody on those lapsed ones that you particularly know, that would be even better, you know, like with Anthony, it helped because he worked at Fast Savings, so that little bit of comfort, you know, yeah.
Oh, and I just don't pay it.
Yeah, exactly. It's gotta
I
be
just said,
firm.
"Here, pay this." I said, all right.
This is an invoice, not an ask.
That's exactly right. That's what I said. I
It's an
said, bring them out an invoice.
it's an
I
not
have
ask."
done that.
Change the look of it.
I have
Yeah.
done that and I've considered actually going back to that, is sending them an invoice with their ask makes it seem like it's just something they pay. Yeah. Oh, this is one of the bills.
But that's part of what being a steward is, it's knowing how it might be
Right.
best for that particular business.
Well, what I'll say about that too is that it's actually easier for like a place like a Bass Savings, if they have an invoice,
Yeah.
they're just gonna send it to accounting,
Exactly.
right? So if you send them an ask, then they gotta figure out and then correspond. If they see an invoice, they're gonna say, yeah, sounds
Right.
great. Let's do it. Or they might say, yeah, let's just up it a bit and then send
Right.
it. Like it's just a lot
I wish
easier
I
because
would.
honestly, they don't really,
Right.
I don't wanna say they
They're
don't
not
care,
making-
but they're planning to make
Right.
these contracts.
Right,
Okay.
they're not making a
Generally.
personal decision at that moment when, you
Right.
know, when Barbara gets
Right.
a
They're
Bass
not
Savings,
gonna
she's
hold a
not
meeting to do
deciding.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, they
Okay,
have a
interesting.
certain threshold that they can give and.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
Interesting.
I would, I signed up for one.
Yep.
I'd sign up for more, but I didn't want to take away somebody's opportunity. You guys all look at
Oh,
the
you're
list and
so
sign up for
nice.
something. And I don't think, I asked Sean Ireland about that this morning, and I don't think he contributes.
They
so-
do not.
So you put him down on the list and I'll hit him up.
Okay,
Wow.
I will do that. I think that's great. Union Co would be a great business
Yeah.
supporter. I do also want to announce, adding Director Robin Hood came back for this
Oh,
year.
good. Okay, so.
And that's one
I'm
of
still
yours, yeah.
in mine,
And
yeah.
then,
Really.
I guess
Flight
we
Deck
both do.
came out of nowhere. Yesterday, I got a $250 donation from Flight Deck. I'm not sure
Oh.
where the gift came from, except that I was on the board with Nate Wild's wife at Growing to Give, and so I shared a lot of our
Okay.
business
Oh,
stuff.
that's great.
Right.
So,
They live in town.
they live
Yeah,
right,
they
yeah, they
do.
live right here at Bath, so, also would be great to get them
We had her
involved.
involved in the early strategic planning.
Yep.
Read and read, how much did you get from?
500, read and read
Wow,
for,
finally.
they haven't given
Finally.
in
Oh,
a
really?
long time, and they sent a letter that said because they are now staff-owned, employee-owned, they sent a letter that said the employees get together each year, they select a couple of nonprofits to support, and we were one of them.
Okay.
So with that letter, though, I'm hesitant to count on them annually, just because it may be flipping, it may not, who knows,
Yeah.
but we'll take it as
Right.
the first gift. And, yeah, and if anybody wants to steward Flight Deck, that would be a great, just because they came out of
That would be
nowhere
a-
unasked,
that'd be a
you
fun
know?
one.
And maybe they'd like to do a feature, you know?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we are
Relocate our
still
meetings.
waiting on, Long Reach Kitchen and Catering to send us their check from the 5 weeks ago event, so I'll nudge them a little bit, but they'll be added to the list as well. for
I would say
stewardship.
anecdotally, don't be afraid to nudge.
I will just
She
walk
needs
next
lots of
door,
nudging.
she lives next to me.
I was gonna say, just don't.
Yeah,
she's
no, I
very busy.
often just knock on her door. So, and yeah, they're great, and I'm sure we'll get it,
Do you know
but
what it was?
300,
Okay.
as I asked. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so I've got the list, or you guys have it, or if you just want me to go assign, I can just, and so you know how I do it, like I'll look and like, if you're in Woolwich, I might give you a Woolwich business, or, you know, I know you guys fairly well, so I can, pick, but if you wanna do one, quick glance again tonight
Yeah.
So we wanna
beforehand,
give
and
it
just,
like begin by Friday or something like that. Have
Yeah,
people take
give
the-
us a-
take
yeah, give
few
it a couple
to-
days, and then if I don't hear from you by the end of the week, I'll
week.
just start assigning, and
Push the
obviously they're not permanent, if you're like, nope, don't like that business, just let me know, and we'll, I mean, you never know.
Okay,
Okay,
all right. Anything else, Eileen, or?
Well, I think related to that is, there are probably businesses who would give to us that aren't on the list. So if you
Oh,
have
yeah.
a relationship with a business that you think, hey, they'd be great to hit up, then that's valuable information.
I thought
Other
it was
banks.
you,
and I also want to, this isn't really the place to have the discussion, but I'm gonna drop the nugget. Fast Ironworks. I think it's
Oh.
time
Yeah,
that we revisit that on a serious.
So
Ser-
then,
no
so
longer
we're not
just-
the only ones they don't give to?
They don't give to
They don't
anybody.
get
They don't give
anybody,
to
except for Main
anybody.
Street,
Okay.
because that's a different
They let
situation.
you-
They
They
actually
don't
don't do that.
They don't do that
They
anymore
don't do
either.
that. They're
Yeah.
rude.
They
A
are.
boat, a boat,
You're
Virginia.
competitive.
They're
right?
not chamber members, they really don't
Oh.
do anything.
Maine
We're working
Maritime
on that,
Museum
but-
kind of gets all of their,
You build
because they
benefits.
built a building for them.
Right.
So, I mean, unless we're gonna do that, but I think that that's something I would like, so if anybody has any relationship or comfort even with that, I'd be happy to start initiating some conversations, you know, with anybody that I know there. I know the vice president a little bit from my time at United Way, but if anybody knows anybody that might get us in the door, that would be great. Or we could invite the new president over. He is new, he's not, you know, familiar with the library, so maybe we can bring him over to our, here, you know, to kind of show him, but
Can we get Bill Haggett to
That's
lean
what I
on
was just
them?
I would love to, I can't even get, yeah. Bill was supposed to go to a capital campaign committee meeting a couple of times, so if we could get him in here, that'd be great, but he's currently running the capital campaign at the Y.
Okay.
So I'm assuming he's
Okay.
busy, yeah. So, yeah, if we could get somebody that,
Hmm.
I think that that's a business that we've been,
Yeah.
No.
and Marty might too, but.
There's a new business opening up in the old Pine Social.
Yes,
They may
yeah.
want.
What is, what's
Front
open,
end.
what's open?
It's
What's
called-
in Linden? It's gonna be like American foods, but done better, right? Like it's gonna be, you
So
know.
it is going to be a restaurant?
Yes, yeah. They own a restaurant down in, the Orr's Island or Hartsville, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A
That's right.
seasonal one,
So
so
everybody goes, so we at least have some more choices.
if we could get some more restaurants in on our business supporter plan. An idea I'd like to steal from Maine Maritime Museum is that they have staff lunches and staff and board members go out to lunch at their business supporters at the restaurants. So maybe we wanna start like implementing where we give back to them a little bit,
Mhm.
encouragement,
Sure.
so
How much is Maxwell's give?
they don't.
So Ed Rogers says it's gonna be the same as his restaurant, but fresh food.
But good.
That's my joke.
That's
Don't write that one down.
That's Cisco.
We are recording.
Okay.
Posterity.
The breast, the chicken
Let's-
breast with the, yeah, that's,
Steve is chomping at the bit over
Get it
here
together, guys.
to talk about the board self-assessment. If we're done with this sort of
I'm gonna
jovial discussion about development.
leave
good.
after that, so.
Okay,
Good?
that's fine.
All right.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, guys.
Samantha. I've got an Amanda. Nice one.
One other thing, you needed more members on your committee, and I wondered about, trying to see if any corporators.
I can try.
see-
I've emailed the corporators in total
Yeah.
about 15 times this year, so they're not lacking in communication, but I think Friends is where
We
I'm
did
gonna
some.
Okay.
tap some more Friends
Okay.
members. But yes, if you have any suggestions, development committee is getting small.
You can get another chapter in.
Yeah.
Okay,
I hope not.
Steve.
After that. So I guess we're an item of new business. The committee, the governance committee is strongly recommending that the board conduct a self-evaluation. We've never done that before. We thought it would be a good, an opportunity for a little bit of reflection on who we are, why we're here, and also in terms of the governance committee's overall a very broad mandate to look at the way the trustees and the corporators work and who's on the committee, who's on those two groups, and what skills we have and what level of commitment we bring to those two organizations. We thought that a self-evaluation would be a good tool to use. Tommy did some research on this. We also identified, or Leslie was tasked to identify or to approach MAMP and to perhaps see what kind of a tool that they had. We didn't want, we're not gonna design our own evaluation form, but use MAMP's evaluation tool, and they'll do some compilation for us and provide us with the results back. So it's something we would like to, I believe I said in my notes, something we'd like to do by the end of this month, right? I think is what we talked about. And then bring the results of that back to the trustees and have a just general discussion with the trustees as a way to kind of introduce and get into the director's evaluation, because I think, at least in my mind, the two are somehow linked. How we think of how we as trustees think of the library and think of our relationship to the library is related in some way to the way that we evaluate and task the director as our chief administrator with in the library to do his or her tasks. So I haven't looked at the tool. Maybe I did. I can't remember.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
We did.
We looked at it.
Yeah, we looked at the tool. It is appropriate to not-for-profits. It'll take, it's fairly lengthy. It'll take some time to get through, but it is worthwhile. We believe it's worthwhile as a committee.
It's like 90 questions, I think.
Yeah.
But some of them are single answer. I mean, it doesn't, yeah, Michael's
it's not-
aghast, but it's
Yeah,
not
it's
as
not
bad as
paragraphs.
it sounds.
It's not writing paragraphs.
It's
I
not
mean,
writing paragraphs most of the
Yes,
time. Yes or no?
right, that's exactly what I was.
But I mean, it's it's an instrument that's been well tested, so we.
Is it like a digital format, like online?
It's
Yeah.
You'll get
Online.
it, yeah, you'll get it through Survey
It's really
Monkey,
similar.
and again, the results go to them, they compile it, so it doesn't put an additional burden on Leslie or the library to generate, which is the other reason we think it's a good idea. I think it'll cost, Leslie said it'll cost around $1,000.
No.
No,
No,
no, 150.
Oh, 150. Okay, I put a couple extra zeros. Tommy came up with alternatives that were in the thousands
Yeah,
of dollars,
no.
but
Well, the alternatives were sort of, somebody holding your hand, so not only doing the survey,
Yeah,
but also
right.
talking and doing all the follow-up with the board and, so
Yeah.
much more hands-on.
But this will,
Yeah, this
this will
doesn't.
add up and determine what the survey shows.
it'll determine
Yeah.
what the survey showed, and then if we want to help go out for interpretive advice, we can do that as well. But I think we've never done a self-evaluation, so I think it's a good practice. The committee also discussed, I guess we didn't feel it had to be an annual thing necessarily. We might elect to do it or recommend to do it every other year, or it could be something that we should do every year until we actually conduct one. We probably won't know how useful it is or how useful it isn't to us. So, so with that $150 expenditure, we'll get the tool. It'll come to you electronically. You'll respond electronically, and we should have results back and again discuss them with the full board. So I don't know if we should have a motion. I would like to move that we conduct a self-evaluation and board self-evaluation. We authorize an expenditure of up to or an amount not to exceed $200, let's say, if you want to put a dollar amount, if we need to put a dollar amount in there.
I'll second.
Yes. All in favor? That's approved. Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. I think we talked about this doing a survey. We've talked about that for several years, so it's good to finally talk about that. Last thing I would say is just note the next board meeting will be the 13th of February, according to my calendar. Just put that down.
Oh.
And there's nothing else going on, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move for adjourn.
Brush off his triumph, Steve. All in favor? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Get this owl off my eyes.
What's that?
This owl.
I know.
Sorry, but it's so.
It's very
busy.
temperamental.
I noticed you were
Yeah, I was
gently testing.
I give it fresh fruit.
When, I can't remember, when do you think we'll get the survey? What did they say, you know, like, from once you buy it, what did they say before we get it?
The turn, oh, 48 hours. to get the results.
No, when
To
we'll
actually do
get
it.
the.
I don't know, we'd like, I think we're gonna try